posted. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
This is Fred Lowry at Lowry Drug. We now have our own brand of full-spectrum hemp extract, also known as CBD oil. I personally manage this product at my farm here in Iredell County. It was then processed and bottled here in Statesville. This is a true herbal extract with all the medicinal components intact. A product you can trust to be authentic. And since there is no wholesaler, it's at a price you can afford. Try it at Lowry Drug on Hartness Road in Statesville.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you?
The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty is recorded live with the men and women of law enforcement. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Now, here's your host, Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Obviously, we're not responsible for the music, but I do enjoy it. So,
I thought it was great.
so everybody, welcome to the Good, the Bad, and Guilty. You know it's Wednesday evening at 3:06, which Bill and I both thought we started at 3, but they told us 3:06. So glad to be here.
But Joe makes us pay full price.
Full price for the whole hour.
Yeah,
or
for the
whatever.
whole hour.
So,
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Here he comes. He's going to say something.
It is what it is, you know.
Got to pay the bills, correct?
Yeah.
Well, listen, we want to tell everybody thank you so much for joining us. As always, you can watch us on Facebook. We're streaming live. Please comment, call in, 844-788-3464. You can watch us on X and obviously on Facebook, Instagram, and who knows wherever else that they've got us. But I know WSIC does have their app, so call us. We'd love to hear from you. And today, obviously, Bill Hamby to my right here, and we have Heather Little, one of our investigators, our threat assessment officer that works our school system, and Iredell-Statesville School Superintendent, Dr. Jeff James. And we're glad for y'all to be here. And obviously today is, the reason we're here is because across the country, probably around the world, who knows, but either way, we have been inundated with threats that's originated from social media for the most part, or anywhere else, and anybody that's thought the need to pull a fire alarm, skip a class, get out in the parking lot anyway. And just to give you a little bit, last week, just from the 9th through pretty much today, we've had over 28 threats of mass violence in our schools, disorderly conduct and fighting over 36, weapons offenses 11, assault 10, and non-assault physical threats at 15. And I know when we sat there before we even say weapons, that's not pistols and things. We do know the one that happened at Statesville Senior High a couple of weeks ago, and obviously the system that Iredell-Statesville Schools and local law enforcement, which have been Statesville Police Department, has in place, handle that real quick and in a hurry. So, but we want to talk today because I know a lot of parents, grandparents, and family members come to us, or they'll call us or send us a message on Facebook. Hey, is something happening, or what are y'all going to do if we do have a threat? And I'm going to start up, and Bill, you'll know this. My number one thing is if we do have a valid threat at a school, and Heather and Dr. James, you know this well, we speak a lot about it, we're going to push it out through our app in consultation with the Iredell-Statesville Schools, because the reason we do that is we want to be factual information. We don't want one person to say something, then change it, and we're going to send it through our app. So if you do not have our app, you can go to the App Store, Google Play, I believe it is, whatever,
Yes,
and it's Iredell County Sheriff's Office. Look for it, download it, and I promise you will not get hit with notifications. And a good byproduct is you can see our sex offender registry, who's in jail, check if your neighbor's been locked up.
Any other important news announcements that are coming from the sheriff's office?
And Bill, I know, hates this, but if you do send us anonymous information, mostly about, well, we all do kind of, but drugs or anything, it comes to us in real time. A lot of people don't think that, but it comes to us in real time, and we immediately, maybe a Sunday morning when you're in the middle of church and you think you need to let us know something, and we will send it to our command staff, who will distribute it down to our patrol people and detectives. It's working.
And just a couple things, Sheriff. The numbers that you shared with our audience, those are just numbers from the Iredell County Sheriff's Office. As you indicated, the incident at Statesville High School, that's not included in this. Anything that may occur down in Troutman, the Troutman Police Department has, that's not included in the numbers. This is just numbers that we have.
Yep.
So we've been very busy. Heather and her counterpart, Sean, have been very, very busy. And one thing, Sheriff, that I would like to comment on our app, we want people to please get the app. It is a great source of information. But if you're going to send us information on the app and it is going on or occurring at that moment, please call 911 or please call the non-emergency number if you need an officer right then. It does push information through us pretty quickly. But if it's going on, if there's an event occurring at that particular moment and you need to tell us something, please 911 or the non-emergency number to get a deputy to respond to your location.
And before we talk about, in full disclosure, we got to remember something too. We have you'll be able to get in schools, but we have probably over 25,000 students. That's just me guessing. We're a 200,000 county, so these numbers are small by comparison. So things that we've done just off the top of my head, we've SROs in every school. I worked till he got here as superintendent. We never had that. We had them in the high and the middle. Now we've got them in elementaries. We got ballistic shields in our schools. We've got dogs working in our high schools. And when we say dogs, their job's not to go find drugs and things like that. It's to build relationships with the students, who in turn gives us information about other stuff. It's worked great.
Wonderful.
Excuse me, our teen academy, things like that. So, Dr. James, glad to have you here today. So, we've hit it rolling, and there's so many things to talk about when you talk about school safety and what we've done in local law enforcement. And y'all, it's hard to talk about. And with Heather.
Absolutely. So, I guess one of the key things, and we've done our first student advisory meeting today. It's been several years before we crunk it back up. And I had a good conversation with students, so they get to interact with central leadership and tell us what some of their concerns are. I think we all found out today that kids aren't really aware that taking something off TikTok or Snapchat and reposting it is also communicating a false threat, which is also punishable pretty well as much as making a threat. So I think we're all going to have to work together with our student body and get them to understand this is all illegal activity. Because, starting Monday week ago, I think between all of us and the school, we probably put in 1,000 hours plus trying to track these down. And you and I have talked, Heather's one of our threat assessment individuals. We have a second one. And, our conversation has been, if this continues, we're going to have to look at a third individual. And what I've told parents, and everybody jumps to hearsay that there's an actual threat at a school. If that occurs, we're going into lockdown, and you'll be part of that, or the PDs in the respective areas. Or if we're going into a security alert, we also push all that out. Today, the kids said it would be nice as a student if you would just email us whatever you send parents, because we don't always get that. And it's they're at the school, so they want to make sure they're safe. But you mentioned that we have Rhino Locks. We're one of the first districts.
The first.
Yes, first districts to put in Rhino Locks, and we have got those on every door that we would have a class locked in. And you will not break that door down with the Rhino Lock. It's not going to happen. Even if you watch those SWAT movies where a team of them breaks the door down.
Remember, we tested them. We went to the old Ebenezer and tried to break them things, and the tactical team could not get those doors open with the Rhino wear.
And you mentioned ballistic shields in our elementary. We have gun safes in our schools. I'm not going to discuss anything about them because they're biometric. So
one thing, they're courtesy of your local drug dealer.
Yes, so thank you.
That was a good thing.
Thanks for that. Well, you got the money off of them to help get the safe, so thank you. We do have some metal detectors, and you and I go to all the conventions nationwide. A threat detector is just another tool in the many tools we deploy to protect our schools. It's not an end-all, be-all by any means. It requires a human body there to actually search individuals. So at Statesville, we were trying detectors there, went through a barrage of different detectors to make, because you don't want one that hits on everything, it's just false.
Absolutely.
Because then you get numb to it and you don't check. So these are doing really well. So the human being is the one that found the gun when they were searching the bag. And it wasn't an intent where a kid brought it to do something, really didn't even know what was in their bag. But unfortunately, as you and I know, it's 365 days and a charge regardless.
But the game plan you had caught it.
Yes.
Heather, I promise you're going to talk here in a little bit. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we'll let you lead off when we come back, and what it takes when this ball starts rolling. So we'll be right back in about 2.5 minutes.
More of The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty with Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell is coming up on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
With the clouds mostly rule the sky around Lake Norman today, we'll still get a few peaks of sunshine heading into the middle of the day and early afternoon. Temperatures will warm into the low 80s as we get into this evening, though. We'll have to keep an eye out for another round of scattered showers and storms. Watching our Thursday as rain from Helene starts to move in. A lot of rain, a lot of wind on the way likely for Friday. We'll keep you posted. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The app with Lake Norman deals. The WSIC app is out now, wherever you get your apps.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Brookdale Village in Huntersville presents their free concert series Live Under the Oaks on Friday. The Village is open all day long for shopping and dining, with Hey Ladies taking the stage at 6 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy on-site beverages from Red Rocks. Live Under the Oaks kicks off at 6 p.m. Friday. This Saturday, the Taba Walk begins at 2 p.m. in Old Town Cornelius. Join the area's premier arts and music festival and get ready to experience Lake Norman's most action-packed and fun-filled community celebration with plenty to do for the entire family. Festivities include 2 stages of live bands and entertainment, local artists, craftsmen and vendors, local breweries, multiple food truck courts, a petting zoo, kid zones, games, giveaways, and so much more. The Taba Walk begins at 2 p.m. Saturday in Old Town Cornelius. Northview's Stars Ministry presents a fundraising carnival for children and adults with special needs on September 28th. The carnival begins at 11 a.m. Saturday at 2615 Amity Hill Road in Statesville with free admission. There will be food, activities, and fun for the whole family. Please help raise funds for children and adults with special needs Saturday at the Northview Church of Christ in Statesville. The Breakaway Carolina Music Festival returns to ZMAX Dragway this Friday and Saturday, bringing a party like no other. The festival features 2 days of music, activities, and much more, beginning at 4 p.m. on both days. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details for the Carolina Breakaway Music Festival this Friday and Saturday.
The Renaissance Festival is back! Saturdays and Sundays, October 5th through November 24th. Jousting nights, mermaids, fairies, dragons, oh my! Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Call now to speak with Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell at 844-STUDIO-4. The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Oh my. Thank you so Joe, you see how he does? I'm in the middle of something and he's giving me law enforcement updates.
Well, there was an earthquake on the border, and I want to make sure he knew that.
You think he's been doing this long enough. He knows not to do that, but...
Yeah, part of it was just gouging.
That's all right.
All right, here we go. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today to WSIC for the Good, the Bad, and the Guilty. We have several good guests with us today. If you have questions or if you have comments about school safety or some ways that we help keep schools safe here in Iredell County, please give us a call at 844-788-3464, or you can look us up on Facebook. You can go to WSIC's app, X, and any other. Joe, am I missing something here as far as media outlets?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
WSIC
is everywhere. So I know, Sheriff, you and Dr. James were talking before we left, but have Miss Heather Little with us today. She's one of our threat assessment investigators. For those of you that are longtime listeners of The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty, Heather's been here a couple times. I think the last time you and your co-part, your partner rather, your cohort in crime, Mr. Rowe, was here. He's obviously off today, busy on some things. But Heather, if you can, as a threat assessment investigator, I know in the summertime and in your off hours when you're not dealing with school stuff, we're working with churches and businesses and things of that nature. But now that school is in, and the sheriff gave just a few numbers a little while ago about all the cases that you guys have been very busy on.
That's just for the month.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been very busy this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if you guys ever sleep, because I know the sheriff's getting texts from you guys 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting them in our group text about what's going on. Dr. James is getting them, or we're communicating back and forth. So very busy time of year. But for our listeners, tell us what happens when somebody notifies us of, hey, I saw this, or a student lets the school system know, hey, I just saw this online. what's the initiator for you guys to start looking into the things that you do?
Well, we typically triage everyone that comes through our SROs as well as the school system. We work very well together, communicating on what is real, what's not real, and triaging what our steps are. So no matter what time of the night it is, our patrol deputies, along with the school system, know to contact us immediately. We start our investigation process. As we've seen in the last couple of weeks, this can go viral very quickly, so we try to handle it as quick and efficient as possible. We typically go out, and if it's at nighttime or outside of school hours, we'll go out, start the investigation, and basically work it. Typically, if I'm contacted at nighttime, it's a minimum of 3 to 4 hours going back and forth between notifying the principals, the administration with the school system, our administration, because it is a lot of just communication so everyone knows what's happening. We also interview multiple children, students, trying to figure out where the threat originated from, what's its credibility, and then usually follow up the next day, of course, at the school system or at the actual school. Of course, if we're notified of a threat during the school day, we automatically respond to the school, work with administration, our SROs, to find the individual that possibly made the threat, make sure they are not a threat at that time, and then really start our investigation process. And then, of course, a charge accordingly if the elements of a crime are met.
And this is one of those things, and there again, I give kudos to Sheriff Campbell, I give kudos to Dr. James. You gentlemen in the associations that you run in the circles that you run in, the people you talk to, we saw that there was a rise in school violence. We saw there was a rise in threats. Sheriff, this is where I know you've been a huge proponent of specialized units, specialized training. I know that we had Heather by herself a couple of years ago. We basically run you ragged, bless your heart. One of the hardest working, but most hours put in people that we had in our criminal investigative division. So that's why, Sheriff, you were able to work with Dr. James and work that out to where we were able to get a second investigator. And as the numbers and the trends that we see continue, and Dr. James, you've alluded to, we may have to at some point put on a third investigator.
Yeah, and Dr. James, they funded. We went to him when this was coming up. We was the first in the state, actually the second in the state that got it, the first in the state that has two, and all those things. And you were at one of those meetings. But
yes,
one thing you missed, you was talking about reaching out to the principal. I mean, this may be 4 o'clock in the morning, and also at the same time, you got to notify them. And also behind the scenes, we're working with patrol to make sure the oncoming shift just has a presence to make sure the parents are comfortable, because we know they're going to see some of these things if they post online to know that we're there. So a lot of that stuff is the stuff that we try to help them feel better and know that you've got it handled. And this, and that's just a small. That don't even count if it goes out of town or if you got to do a search warrant on Instagram or
Absolutely.
Facebook. Facebook just don't willingly give us that information because it's not in their best interest to cooperate with law enforcement. I hate to say it. So y'all have to write all those orders and magistrates, and it's juvenile services. There's a lot of different tentacles that reach out of every little case, and that's the reason there's so much money and so many resources tied up in this.
Yes, so many man hours. Just the last couple of weeks with the viral post that we have, it's probably unimaginable. Our patrol deputies, I know, over the weekend spent several hours just themselves. Like, they're taking up resources from what would be normal calls, spending, dealing with, helping us really with all the threats that we're assessing, because when it goes viral like that, it's hard to contain, especially when kids are resharing information that they haven't validated to be true. That's why we're so harsh on punishment for that.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where obviously we don't want to put the message out, and Dr. James, I think you would agree with this. If there is a legitimate threat, if there is something that we need to know, please let us know it. We will react. We will keep you confidential if possible. We need to know the information. But if you see something online and you have no direct knowledge of it, and it's like, oh, I think this will be cool to share, and you share it, you're spreading that fire.
Or add to it.
And you're potentially committing a crime.
When a simple call to the sheriff's office, we're typically aware of a lot of the hoax scope that go around the state, notifies us. Nationally, they notify us.
That's one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and going back to the sheriff with specialized training. Some of the groups and organizations that you belong to, you guys share this information all the time.
Absolutely.
So that when it may occur, and Sheriff, I know we often talk about things happening in California and working its way this way, but just the other day, Raleigh PD was inundated with particular threats that we had just worked or seen the day before.
Yes.
So these things, they as I guess there's no really better way to say viral. They just metastasize in other locations. So we've already worked it, put in all these hundreds of man hours, spent all this taxpayer money. You know, obviously we're going to charge if we can to make it stop, just to see WRAL having a news story on it the next day that they're dealing with it. You know, well, if they'll pick up the phone and give us a call, we'll share information. You know, it's frustrating that kids just perpetuate this mess. I mean, it really is.
But it is so good to know that we're so far ahead of the game.
Yeah.
That is
And
true.
We're way ahead from videos, safes.
Well, if you don't mind me sharing this, Sheriff.
I don't know, it depends.
Well, I know, right? The meeting that you said that we were at, it was really neat. It was at least 65, 70 sheriff's offices represented at this meeting. And there was an individual there asking questions of the group. And it was one of those, if you have this, stand up. And if you have this, stand up. And if you have this, stand up. And by the time it was over, where it was SROs in every school, gun safes in every school, access to cameras, access to radio frequencies, security checks, specialized folks, unification plans. You know, the only county left standing
was us.
Was Iredell County.
And that's something that we're very happy with in the relationship. Like I said, you wouldn't think, and as far as you go, Heather, you don't have any idea how many text messages we get, and we said, does anybody else work but Heather? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but there's so many threats come in. And I got to give you kudos. You're the one we could maybe get a regular CID to work, and they do a good job, and I know they help you. But that's your baby, and that's what you have really went to school to get educated, and you're basically at the top level now of other people learning what you already know, and you built up this. And I will say one thing, Dr. James, I know she'd come to me and asked me about some threat assessment software. She goes, what are we going to do? It was nothing but a phone call to Dr. James, and I think y'all right now, us and them working together. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think training starts, or has already started.
Yeah. Well, Sheriff, you're a big advocate for prevention and targeted. Threat assessment, that's what it is. It's prevention. And so, of course, this county is precious to me. I have children, that go to school here. So it has a passion that's grown of mine. Yes. Yes, soon.
So, Dr. James, we've kind of heard things from a law enforcement standpoint. How does it affect a school? Let's just say that it's Hamby Elementary School and there's a perceived threat against that school. What does the school system do to help secure and mitigate that threat?
Well, unfortunately, when it happens on the weekends, like Lake Norman last Monday, we had 1,000 students stay home.
Yeah.
And it was not, it turned out it was just somebody repeating what they'd already seen. But of course, if you read the paper, one of those individuals is charged with a felony. So if we're aware of it, Heather lets us know. And of course, one of the things we were able to do just recently was hire a director of security that is actually a 30-year veteran and deputized.
You got a good one.
So she actually carries. I'm not sure where. Don't want to ask. But the funny thing was, after about Thursday of last week, she says, "Oh my goodness, I don't think I've ever worked so hard."
Well, no, hey, she come by. She's been by the office twice, I think, this week, and she also, if I got a chance to see you, she'd interested in a raise. She said she's if she's listening.
And
that is Gina.
She started out very well.
So, and y'all, if you don't know, that is Gina Cranford, was a SRO supervisor with us for years. She has got, if you need to know something school system, she knows it. And that background part is threat assessment, reunification, and she knows everybody. She knows players. That has really been an asset to both of us.
Well, this is a fluid thing, and it's not just we do something and we stop. We're always meeting to discuss what else we can do, what the next threat may be, how we can mitigate it, be ahead of it. So it's an ongoing process. As a matter of fact, I just sent 2 of my guys out on the camera software. So now they're putting AI software on the camera system. So if you tell me there's a suspect with a green shirt, black hair, I can type it in, and it pulls it right up.
And that's not Big Brother watching; it's just for safety. So we'll be back. We'll be back in about 2 minutes.
There's more of the good, the bad, and the guilty with Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell on the way from 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
clouds mostly rule the sky around Lake Norman today. We'll still get a few peaks of sunshine heading into the middle of the day and early afternoon. Temperatures will warm into the low 80s as we get into this evening, though. We'll have to keep an eye out for another round of scattered showers and storms. Watching our Thursday as rain from Helene starts to move in. A lot of rain, a lot of wind on the way likely for Friday. We'll keep you posted. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Sweet chocolate reward. Sweet chocolate reward.
This is not just the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat at Walgreens. This is the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat right after receiving all their vaccines in one trip. This is the sound of treating yourself, because you protected yourself.
Stop by or schedule both your flu and COVID-19 vaccines today and grab yourself a sweet treat while you're at it. Vaccine subject to availability. State, age, and health-related restrictions may apply.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Bob McIntosh here with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Serving this community has been a collective passion of our law firm since 1997. We offer the quality legal services and results you would expect from a large downtown firm, but with a personal, community-focused approach right here at home. The McIntosh Law Firm, your local legal resource.
To learn more about the McIntosh Law Firm, visit McIntoshLawFirm.com.
On the lot at Black Automotive, look at these Buick Envistas. The all-new Buick Envistas are leasing for as low as $299 a month. Check with them here at Black Automotive for all the details. Black Automotive, Statesville.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
This is Brad with Lake Norman Patio and Game Rooms in Mooresville. If you haven't been in the store, come check us out. See the highest end outdoor furniture, game room supplies you can find anywhere in North Carolina. 847 Brawley School Road in Mooresville. LKNpatio.com, outdoor living at its finest.
Family, quality, value. With a legacy of excellence for over 40 years, Horn Heating and Air Conditioning will make your house feel like a home. Welcome home to the feeling of HornHVAC.com.
Are you in constant pain, under constant stress? Just need a moment away? Repeat after me. Serenity Now Massage Therapy. Serenity Now Massage and Wellness.com with locations in Mooresville and Cornelius.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. It could be a happy holiday season for online retailers. Adobe Analytics predicts the biggest increase in online spending in 3 years, a total of $240 billion in shopping during November and December. That's thanks to deep discounting and people with more money to spend thanks to easing inflation. On Wall Street, stocks lowered today after disappointing data on sales of newly built homes in August. They were down, even though prices on those homes edged a little lower, as did mortgage rates. But right now, the Dow is down a little more than 0.5%. The NASDAQ and the S&P are flat. Bad news for Boeing. Striking machinists rejecting the plane maker's latest contract offer that includes a 30% pay raise, calling the offer, quote, inadequate and disrespectful. That walkout is costing Boeing $100 million every single day. And something new from the folks who make A1 steak sauce. It's A1 steak sauce butter that you put right on the meat. Tom Busby, Bloomberg Radio.
The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty continues now. Here's your host, Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
See, Joe, you know my heart. I love my Alfred Hitchcock music. Just listen to it. It's soothing.
That's between you and him, obviously.
Oh, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much again for tuning in to the Good, the Bad, the Guilty here on WSIC. Got a great show going today, very informative. So if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call at 844-788-3464. And I believe Joe says...
I believe he's got an announcement.
Oh, yeah.
For the first,
I have nothing to
the
announce.
first, well,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
decided the first caller. I think Joe's going to looking at getting you a dozen donuts.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. I don't know what I can do about that.
We'll bill somebody. Okay.
Absolutely. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have questions, please call in. It's a very timely topic. We are here trying to have a good time today, but we do understand that this is a serious thing, and we try to approach it to both agencies, from the Iredell County Sheriff's Office, Iredell-Statesville School System. We do approach it very seriously. We do take each and every threat seriously, because we're not going to have our students, our staff, our faculties, our buildings, we're not going to have them threatened and take it lightly. So just understand that for those of you that are listening that for whatever reason think it's funny or cute to do things. So, Heather, we were talking about the investigative process before we went to break.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's assume that we have enough evidence, probable cause to make a charge, okay? And this is what I want our listeners to do, and you're an expert in doing this because I know you've explained it to me numerous times. There are differences in being able to charge an adult, a person that's 18 years of age or older, and a juvenile, which is anything less than 18.
Yes,
I know that they've recently, Sheriff, and I know that the Sheriff's Association, had some thoughts and feelings about raise the age, but it is what it is, I guess we could say. So now if the individual that communicates a threat, makes a threat, or commits an act of violence or an assault at a school, and they are less than 18 years old, explain that process, please, to our listeners.
Well, along with our lengthy investigations comes a lot of paperwork and documentation.
Yes.
So we get all that together and we submit that to the Department of Juvenile Services. And then they decide whether they're going to file the petition or if we have enough probable cause to file the petition, which typically we have good relation. We talk about that kind of before we know what meets the elements and what don't. So we submit to Department of Juvenile Services, and then they start the petition process, and then it's pretty much out of our hands from there. But I'll say on the Sheriff's Office side, across the board, we try to be fair to everyone. And if it meets the elements, regardless of what the circumstances are around it, we do submit the charges.
And I think a big thing, that's not optional. Back in the day, a lot of people said at 16 we could house. We could arrest 16, 17-year-olds. But now with raised age, we can no longer do that. We know that. I just want the parents to understand that. But the kids already understand it. Because a lot of them know there is no real threat from them getting physically arrested that day. And we have those conversations. So,
And ours are felony charges as well. Like, parents realize that after their kids are being charged. And we've tried our best to be awareness and let people know. I know Dr. James is in Connect-Eds. We send press releases. We want our parents and kids to know the consequences of doing this, and those are felonies.
So in the language of dealing with juveniles, when you say file a petition, that would be the same thing as an officer or a deputy going to a magistrate if it were an adult?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Very good. So, Dr. James, can you tell us, once either the school determines that this is where I think, and I'm so glad you're here to explain this, we may or may not charge that individual with a crime, but that doesn't mean that they haven't violated a school rule or a policy.
Absolutely. So we do a student handbook that we share with parents. Each school has their student handbooks, typically online, or we send a small copy home. Of course, you can imagine elementary is not going to be near the size of a middle or high.
Right.
So our principals in our student service department, Shayla Savage, has done a really good job of codifying all this, because we also have to put codes in, because certain things that are chargeable offenses we have to submit to the state.
Correct.
So the state keeps up with those codes, and there have been some schools deemed persistently dangerous because of the number of fights or other codes that go in. It's got to be a typical fight. Someone's got to get hurt, not a typical fight, but a fight that injures someone, assault on a police officer, assault on a teacher. But it doesn't take a whole lot of those to make a school persistently dangerous. So I'm glad we're not, because we're very proactive. But what parents need to understand, the law also says if you bring a firearm, it's a 365-day suspension. Parents, everyone gets due process. You have the right to appeal that, believe it or not. So I sort of kind of disagree with that. You either bought a handgun or you didn't. It's not debatable, but that is appealable. What students have to understand, and parents, in that appeal process, my recommendation could be expulsion to the board. And one thing I will say with our current board, one thing I think they're very unified on is making sure that our schools do not tolerate this activity in our schools. So 2 years ago, with the new board that we currently have, we suspended, the first time in my career, we didn't suspend, we actually expelled 13 students. And when you're expelled, you're no longer a member in the school system. You can reapply after 6 months, but typically, if you've done something egregious enough to get expelled, you're most likely not coming back. And I will tell you, it's made a significant difference in the school where we did that. We don't do it lightly. I had every one of these students Hume folders from the time they were in kindergarten. And, you know, what parents have to understand, you know, when it gets up to high school and we have to deal with it, it's a lot more serious. So it's somewhere during the transition of your child, if they're not listening at home, you can't control them, there are resources to reach out to. It's a little bit late when they turn 18 and they're in a squad car.
Right.
But what happens, and I tell parents, you can have the best intentions for your child. You could think they're going to the NBA or they're going to NFL, they're going to Harvard. It only takes one stupid act of finding something online and reposting it, and you will not get into an Ivy League school or most colleges with a felony.
Absolutely.
And we have preached it. We have
Yes.
preached it. Just like today on this radio show, when we've done other ones, we have said
Yes.
for long, we have a zero tolerance for that. And, you know, those that says, well, it'll never happen here, have had it. But let me just tell you what happened less than a month ago. You got a 12-year-old charged with murder in Charlotte, a 14-year-old. A 12-year-old, which is what, 6th grade?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's becoming more common. I mean, we have to take them seriously.
We,
because
and that's
you never
Heather.
know.
That's great. You're right. We get someone that says, that ain't worth nothing. You know, that's but we can't run the risk, and y'all can run the risk of not investigating every single one. And that's what. We can look at them and sometimes say, well, this is probably not a valid threat, but we cannot not investigate it.
Absolutely. And, you know, with us, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of processes, a lot of time and effort put into it. And I would tell parents, they're filters. If you're going to allow your child to be on social media, not our device, it's filtered. So if you do something on a device that goes home, it still runs through a web browser that we control, and it tells us everything that you're doing. So that a lot of times we pick up threats or potential threats from the devices we send home. But the cell phone that you hand your child, there are a ton of different filters out there. I'm actually, as soon as I get a few minutes, which I'm not sure when this week, I'm actually going to reach out to a few of these companies to see if they'll partner with us and offer some specials for parents. You know, I had a daughter too. Nothing she had was without a filter. So anywhere she went, I knew it, what time of day it was on. I would also tell parents, you know, as a parent, I'm pretty sure your child's not up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning doing homework. So that you can shut your internet down during those times, or there's parent protection on your internet from Spectrum and these other companies that you can fix it where your child can't get on after a certain time.
And one thing that I've noticed, and Heather, you may be, because we have good parents, really, 99.99999%, but we also have those that may hear something, instead of reaching out to their principal, reaching out to a teacher, hey, have you heard this? Let's post it on Facebook or something. You also got to work with, when you're coming in, and, you know, I've always said that at schools in the mornings, evenings, during the day, it's the biggest community cluster in any community as a kids. Try to be on time. Try to understand rainy weather, things going to be slow. Try to understand people may be in training that at these schools. Be patient. Understand, and I said the best, and the reason we're using the app is get accurate information before you take sometimes to social media, because we spend a lot of time trying to fix a problem. And we're very understanding, but I think, and I know y'all see that tenfold more than we do. So just a little food for thought there.
Yeah, our lives as a group would be a lot easier if we didn't have social media.
Yes.
Well, we're going to take a break here in about 45 seconds. Before we do, Bill, obviously Joe's offer of donuts did not get us any callers today. I'm not too sure the phone lines are working. They're
always working.
Okay. Well, if you want to be that one, we're going to be back in about 5 minutes. And Bill, when we come back, we're going to talk about. Shoot us some on Facebook, a message on Facebook. But let's see where the future leads us and what we're going to do in the future with AI and some of the growing population here in Iredell-Statesville schools. And so we'll be back here in about 3 minutes.
Don't Don't go anywhere. We'll have more of the good, the bad, and the guilty coming up right after these messages on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
With the clouds mostly rule the sky around Lake Norman today, we'll still get a few peaks of sunshine heading into the middle of the day and early afternoon. Temperatures will warm into the low 80s as we get into this evening, though. We'll have to keep an eye out for another round of scattered showers and storms. Watching our Thursday as rain from Helene starts to move in. A lot of rain, a lot of wind on the way likely for Friday. We'll keep you posted. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Brookdale Village in Huntersville presents their free concert series Live Under the Oaks on Friday. The village is open all day long for shopping and dining, with Hey Ladies taking the stage at 6 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy on-site beverages from Red Rocks. Live Under the Oaks kicks off at 6 p.m. Friday. This Saturday, the Tabo Walk begins at 2 p.m. in Old Town Cornelius. Join the area's premier arts and music festival and get ready to experience Lake Norman's most action-packed and fun-filled community celebration with plenty to do for the entire family. Festivities include 2 stages of live bands and entertainment, local artists, craftsmen and vendors, local breweries, multiple food truck courts, a petting zoo, kid zones, games, giveaways, and so much more. The Tabo Walk begins at 2 p.m. Saturday in Old Town Cornelius. Northview's Stars Ministry presents a fundraising carnival for children and adults with special needs on September 28th. The carnival begins at 11 a.m. Saturday at 2615 Amity Hill Road in Statesville with free admission. There will be food, activities, and fun for the whole family. Please help raise funds for children and adults with special needs Saturday at the Northview Church of Christ in Statesville. The Breakaway Carolina Music Festival returns to ZMAX Dragway this Friday and Saturday, bringing a party like no other. The festival features 2 days of music, activities, and much more, beginning at 4 p.m. on both days. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details for the Carolina Breakaway Music Festival this Friday and Saturday.
The Renaissance Festival is back! Saturdays and Sundays, October 5th through November 24th. Jousting nights, mermaids, fairies, dragons, oh my! Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Now more of the good, the bad, and the guilty with Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to the good, the bad, and the guilty, and we're on our last segment. Obviously, you can call us in 844-788-3464. Listen to us on Facebook. Obviously, you can comment if you'd like. X and anywhere else, you'll find it readily available across the internet.
Thank you to Lee and Miss Michelle for listening today. We appreciate those kind comments. And if anybody has any comments, hit us up.
Oh, we got a caller. First winner of the donut box.
There you go, Joe. That's a dozen donuts.
Good.
Go ahead, caller.
Well, hello. Well, shoot, darn, I don't eat donuts. Nuts. I'm sorry. Hey, listen, really quick. It's a really simple thing, okay?
Okay.
Over the years, everyone's had to get a driver's license because we need to know how to operate that piece of equipment. Because if you don't know how to operate it, it does harm.
Gotcha.
Well, we got a lot of harm being done with these cell phones, so why not just start putting out the requirement for a cell phone license, and then you'll actually be covering your internet literacy there, and then that way it'll just it's a little regulatory, I get it, but it's not governing itself, so it's time to start governing it.
Great question. I see Dr. James Head bobbling over here, so I'm going to let him take that answer.
Well, actually, if you keep up with national news, there's several states that have banned the use of cell phones in schools. Matter of fact, it's pretty timely, so she must have a crystal ball. So actually, one of the board members just talked to me yesterday, and he said, hey, we started this conversation on cell phones. Where are we at? Our attorney, his part of this was to look into other districts and see what they were doing. And then we were putting together an internal task force to have some parents on it. And we were sort of rapidly heading that way until Georgia. And then I think there was some pushback from parents then saying, and we're not saying take the cell phone away for emergency uses, but We don't need them out, walking down the hall. And you know this, and Heather being in the schools a while, a lot of times fights start because of cell phones, because they text each other and start a fight. And we had this going on until we started suspending for having your cell phone out to video. They would plan a fight. Kids would, and then somebody would be the photographer and be back here videoing it.
Right.
So we just started suspending everybody in the circle.
We did see something, and I want to emphasize what you said. This is not that you can't. If you need to pull it out in an emergency, you would have it, and the capability there. So a lot of people here, when you say take phones, let's take it, lock it in the room, and be done. That's not what it is. I think, and you correct me, but I have seen it on other places across the news, is what we call Faraday bags, which basically blocks the signal until you unzip it and use it.
Yes.
So keep in your book bag, just like you would a calculator if you're not in math class. And if you need it, if it was a school shooting or an active shooting, you would have access to it. Unzip it, use it. So I think that's a great plan. Now, obviously, it's up to you and your board what y'all do, but that's a good, simple. Clarify.
We're heading that way, and I think it involves the community and us to get some feedback so we can sort of not go to the right or to the left, but try to toughen up what we have. We do have a current cell phone policy. And I will say that the principals, because of all that we dealt with last week, are really tightening up on
getting strict. Kids
having those out. It's unfortunate again, but I would tell even a parent, what bothers me, there is a book called Glow Kids, and a group suggested that I read it. The damage that we're doing to young kids with video games, screen time, if you read this book, they're award-winning psychiatrists, physicians that actually have MRIs that show the change in the way our young people use their brain because of all this exposure to electronics. So
absolutely,
I think we've got to be able to control screen time, and also a parent know where their child's going. I mean, you wouldn't hand your child a gun, and as the caller just said, it's not really a gun, but it's just as dangerous when you hand your child.
It can be, yeah.
Right, yes.
Caller, we appreciate it. I didn't know if you were just listening, if you're still there, but we do appreciate your call.
One of the things that I'm the proudest of, especially being in an agency where there again, we were only one standing left in the room. Oh.
Hey, maybe they want the donuts.
Okay.
Welcome in, Bill.
Hello, caller. You have something for us?
Yes, I do. Last week, I noticed that coming past Statesville High, that there was a couple of policemen pulling people over for going through the school zone in the morning. And I was just wondering, why couldn't they put a solar panel up on those things and have them set where it blinks and lets you know? It's kind of, I don't know, especially if you're not from around here. I drive up and down Center Street quite a bit. And I know, but a lot of people they don't realize that they're in a school zone because they're so far away from the school you don't even see them. I wonder if they couldn't put the blinkers on there or something to let us know that it's a school zone.
Well, I tell you what, that's a great question. I'll throw that directly to Dr. G. You're 2 for 2 today to answer those questions.
Absolutely.
Maybe he needs to give the donuts.
I will.
There you go.
So I'll have to borrow some money. So our budget's empty, but I would 100% agree with the caller. We've met with DOT over the last 2 or 3 years multiple times, and unfortunately, while we pay gas tax, DOT doesn't always have money, but we do work with them, and that's one of the things we talked about recently is getting some alert signs up. As a matter of fact, we hired another individual years back, Paul Webster, who used to be with the county.
Never heard of him.
Well, everybody knows Paul, so we hired Paul. He was with emergency management here in the county, and has a plethora of knowledge about signage, etc. So he is working with DOT right now. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, he sent me a photograph of some signs like the caller's talking about in other counties. It used to be, and the caller nailed this, those bulbs that used to have power, not solar, and the bulbs themselves were like $100 and some a piece, and this was 20 years ago. But with solar, LED, it makes them more affordable, and they're really self-sufficient. So we are looking into that. I would agree 100% with that. Absolutely.
Caller, appreciate your call. It sounds like I took from that we need to get DOT on the stick, and
absolutely,
if they can't help us out with that. So
that's right.
Thanks for the call. Thanks for the call. Going back a little bit in this last little bit, I want to talk about and just sort of bring it up how proactive. You broke your microphone.
Heather has broke her microphone.
My Lord.
Am I back?
You're
back.
Back.
Okay. Basically, how proactive versus reactive we try to be. We do we work with administrators. We do walkthrough. We do active shooter response training, unification. A lot of that stuff. Dr. James spoke about the rhino wear. That was nothing that we were said we got to do. Iredell State's first in the state. Started at Central Elementary School, is where it started, and it spread everywhere. But things like that, Heather, that we take apart, and you too, Dr. James. Things that we, I can just go off on my head things that we do right now as far as the training and the talking and stuff, but to make sure the parents feel their kids are safe while they're at school.
Well, I think even just at the elementary level, having those SROs in elementary to discuss, like as they get older, some of the things that are crimes, we try to be preventative, not only on the threat assessment side, but to any crime, just educating the kids at
And
that
any
level.
need.
Yes.
Any need.
And it was really comforting this summer, Heather, when you and Sean, and I think you had some folks there from the SBI and maybe the Attorney General's office, what parents need to realize, and I didn't really even realize this, being a parent when Stephen was much younger, is the training that these school officials and the school staff members and I mean the cafeteria ladies, the bus drivers, the admin, the teachers, everybody goes through training, and now it's state mandated. If I'm not correct, Heather, is that not true?
North Carolina is slowly getting with some other states.
Yes.
I blame that on us not having a big school shooting here. Thankfully, we hope we
Because
never
we're
have
so
anything like
proactive
that.
with it.
Yes.
And I want to say, you talking about that, I want to say, Dr. James, this hat's off before she gets in, because I have never this one day ever had a complaint about a teacher or an administrator in your school system complaining about having to do active shooter training or our SROs on the ground of these schools. So we have some fine teachers, teachers' aide, principals, bus drivers, lunch ladies. Never have I had word.
And Heather's actually trying to roll out 3 days worth of training.
Well, we've started. We got day one done.
Okay.
I'm proud, that I'm a master trainer now. Of course, I'm very passionate about threat assessment. So I am thankful that we work so well with the school system. And other school systems have reached out as well for training, but I think we are well advanced compared to some of the other schools and school systems that I've talked to during some of my trainings. They don't have those relationships. So I am thankful. I think here we have a good relationship, not only with the school system, but also our juvenile services people here. I think we've got a good support system here.
And in the future, I think we got to work. I think your board, you work with your board a lot more. We work with commissioners, so I can't leave them out because they're very involved with our funding and your funding from the SROs. And even Mitchell College has one of our SROs, Dr. Brewer over there. So. I don't want to leave the commissioners and the manager out because they do make it possible. And,
Absolutely. Well, they also give us money, so I try to always be appreciative of everything they give us. We couldn't have, we might get fussed at sometimes, but
and we do, yeah.
And we took on the second threat assessment person, and I got a few really, and so that worked out. And now we're talking about a third one. Dogs is another.
But we spend those off like metal detectors. There's certain things, shields we spare.
So, we also have a system in our schools where you can't just get into the school. You come into the outside door and you are sequestered in the office. And then with the Verkada camera system, you also sign in. And that system is much more than the old Identikid. So if you come in and you have a background, it will show up on our software.
And let me tell you something we're training. I hadn't even told you this yet. And Heather, you may know it, you may not. Sam can. I just finished training. Yes. They do a lot of our training. We can videotape our schools here. We can create simulators for active shooters in any school here, and they will log it and keep it for us to send people down training. So that's how far it's working across the state. And I guess before we close here in just a few minutes, I just want to stress to the parents here, nobody's perfect. Iredell-Statesville, we're not perfect, but we dang sure try.
We're way ahead of the curve.
We're so far, and there's stuff, you're talking about the safes. No, I'm not going to say what's no safes, but I can tell you this. I don't want to happen in Parkland, Florida, where you got to run out to school. I want to make sure, and there's not a doubt in my mind, our SROs and our people and your people would go right in there to save these kids' lives. So,
Absolutely.
I think and we appreciate the parents' support. We can't do it. Y'all can't do it without the parents, and we can't either. And we understand their kids. I got 2 kids and had 3. One in college now, and 2 that's still in school here, public safety. Now I wouldn't have them nowhere else. So,
well, Dr. James, thank you so much for your time. Heather, thank you for coming. Sheriff,
you for having me.
Always good to see you here on Wednesday when you're not traveling the great state.
I tell you what, I'm glad to be back, and I appreciate all the listeners. We had a lot of different during the course of Texas and people watching it live, and we appreciate it.
And we'll be back next week here on the Good, the Bad, the Guilty.
That's it. Everybody have a good week.
Thank you, everyone.